It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric with the good hair. I'm going to steal that from Michael Rappaport. It's Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll have that coming up here in a little bit. I was just telling you, we've talked about Michael Rappaport before, the Hollywood actor, and what a liberal he used to be, and his transformation that he could sit in for one of us, and you might not know the difference.
I'd love for him to sit in for the incoming Trump White House spokesperson just for one day.
Well, his evolution has been amazing, and it really, you think about it, that all started because of Charlottesville.
Yeah, it really
Well,
did.
that's what it seemed when he's explained it.
I think that part of the big transformation, the big turn, did. I think that there were a lot of things going on, the violence in New York and the shoplifting, the looting basically in broad daylight that was going on, and he went off on that. And then he started, looking at liberals. And at one point, I mean, he was still calling Trump, some choice words. He was like, all right, but I'm not going to vote for the other guy. I'm not voting for Biden, even though, blah, blah, blah. And he still had some choice words for Trump. That went away fairly quickly, especially he says he looked more into the Charlottesville incident and the lies told by the left. And, he took full blame for accepting those lies from the left about Charlottesville, and then kind of looked into a ton of other lies that the Democrats were really responsible for over the years, and started to put the puzzle together very quickly. And
right,
an angry liberal at one point. I mean, just off the charts angry liberal at one point, and a complete 180.
Well, and thank you to a couple of our listeners who made sure that we knew about Michael Rappaport yesterday.
Because you were on social media, you couldn't miss it. But thank you for that.
But that's I don't know if I woke up to it or what. But when it was a couple of listeners, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's wow. They actually listened to our show.
Yeah.
But let's just play a second of it, because sort of goes after what I think I said it in a different way. But I said, look, just because you've got the Pat Riley hair from the late 80s, the greased up, former L.A. Lakers coach from the late 80s, doesn't mean there's anything inside of that cranium.
Yeah.
But just very quickly, because he hits the hair and the motions and all this.
Good hair. Gavin with the good hair. Newsom. You thought you were going to be president. You're never, ever, ever going to be president, Gavin with the good hair. I don't care how slicked back it is. I don't care. Like you got your aviator glasses and you stand up straight. And I'm Gavin with the good hair. Little Nancy's good old little nephew. Aunt Nancy, she told me this, and she told me when you're speaking, I speak with my hands, and sometimes I start doing shoulder gestures.
Well, there's a number of videos out there where he's swaying back and forth, and we talked about the other day. We go, what the hell's going on with the shoulders? The right shoulder up, left shoulder up, back and forth, and then just moving it. And then the other one where he's swaying back and forth and smiling through all of this. It's almost as if it's like, I'm being bothered by it, but hey, everything's fine, and I'm very happy, and we've got the Marshall Plan 2.0, but I have no idea what it's going to be, and everybody's coming together, labor. It's just like, stop it.
It is the worst performance by a governor in a situation like this than I can remember.
Meanwhile, other things happened yesterday. Here's some audio.
In other words, you're quite sure that Every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years. You're not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
Ouch.
Oh, the Hegseth hearing yesterday. I don't think he still has the votes because they said they're optimistic. Joni Ernst said yes, but they said they're optimistic that he will be confirmed. That means they don't have the votes as of right now. Otherwise, somebody would have said, "Have you seen anywhere the Hill or anybody look at
I
look
haven't
at the
seen
whip
the head
count?
count, but there's between the story the other day that he doesn't have the votes in the committee, and basically, look, it could just be that he told Trump, "Let me go up there and fight for it," and Trump said, "Okay, great. This is about you," because in as of late November, Trump had not made any calls to the Senate in favor of him. And remember, Hegseth was, in fact, he was going up to the Senate up until recent days and having meetings with senators. But I don't know if that changed in late December or at any point. I didn't see anywhere that Trump was helping him campaign by making phone calls. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he did. I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if he didn't. But what typically doesn't add up is if he doesn't have the head count, then it would have gone the way of Matt Gaetz. In fact, when Matt Gaetz was handed, that information, it was within hours he pulled back. He pulled out. Joni Ernst was a big one, but in recent days, she wasn't the one everyone was talking about. You go back again a few weeks, and she seemed to be the key holdout. And it was probably because so much focus was on his meetings with her and her making statements about those meetings. And it was hard to read into, but she kept saying the meetings are going well. So it made it seem like she was kind of the frontliner there and the holdout. Well, as of just the other day, there could be, Murkowski, Collins, Romney's replacement robot.
Curtis.
Yeah, Curtis.
Curtis in Utah, and McConnell.
And Mitch McConnell. I didn't see that anywhere else, but
right.
If that's true, the question is, are they taking the wait-and-see approach?
But if he's got Fetterman, then it doesn't matter.
Right. Exactly.
And so is that the only reason I bring it up? They go, well, we're optimistic he's going to be able to get there. We're confident. They're not saying, no, we've taken the vote. We've got the votes.
Right.
So does it mean that they know they've got, well, they would need just 50.
Yeah.
Would they need 50 and a confirmation? Does the vice president get a vote?
I forget. I'd have to look that up.
I'll have to look that up,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't, because it's not legislation. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
Whether they need 50 or 51 on that one.
Yeah.
But he did find what I actually got out of it. Look, to me, you know what the most important thing is for me in the military right now? The one question that I have, and it's and the biggest concern that I have, are our aircraft carriers useless because of the hypersonic missiles that our enemies have? Can they be taken out? That's a huge question. Because we spend hundreds upon hundreds of billions of dollars on our aircraft carriers. Is that the case, and what's the plan? That, to me, is the absolute one of the top questions. There may be other questions out there, but that would be one of the top questions for me that I would want to know. Other than that, he made his I think Hegseth made a great, because he wasn't really pushed on anything. The Democrats talking about women, he's made it clear. He goes, look, if you can meet the standards, that's all I care about.
Well, and Tim Kaine's performance really came back down on Tim Kaine, if you think about it. I mean, if you want to talk about, being pushed on something, we knew the liberals were going to go where they went. That was going to be a given.
But they really didn't hit as hard as I thought they would hit on you can be blackmailed. How can we be sure of that?
Right. Yeah,
Tim
Kaine was probably the hardest on that.
Right.
And that wasn't I didn't think that was I didn't think that was as I guess a brick wall as I thought it might have been coming from the left.
Yeah. And what you got, it's interesting because it was, whether it was, you had Tim Kaine, and then you had, who else? I'm trying to think who else was, Elizabeth Warren was just,
Yeah. Yeah.
Hirono was just, you're just shaking your head. But what you got a lot of, these people are loony again.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I got out of it. You had a lot of screeching. You had a lot of things. Could you lower it? They didn't get him on anything.
Right.
We already knew everything. It's not just that, but was reading Jonathan Turley on the Jack Smith report. It's like, you notice that thing came out and nothing happened? There was nothing on that?
Well,
and the reason was because there's nothing new in it.
Well, we're not learning anything new, and it was weird because, Trump went off on him during the day, knowing that it was going to be released at midnight, right? And so it was released about 24 hours ago,
right?
But hours earlier, it was known that was going to happen. That part of it was going to be released, and the liberal media kind of did something. Oh, man, I went to get my oil change in my truck. I got to get my timing straight. I walk in, sit down, happened again. 10 a.m., The View. They were talking about it, and I thought, well, that means nobody else is talking about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
They at where you went is a dealership. They had
No, it's not a dealership. It's a quick change place.
They had The View on?
Yeah, because they had Channel 8 on, WFAA News in the morning.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Because
remember I told you the morning Kamala Harris was on The View saying that was the last time I had my oil changed.
My dentist, a conservative.
Yeah.
And the only thing he can put on without getting complaints is like the do-it-yourself network.
HGTV.
Yeah.
Which actually is very liberal.
It
is.
But it's got to be something where politics is never brought up.
Mm-hmm.
And if, I go into, whether it's my doctor, whatever, if the TV is on, it's all completely, and my dealership too, completely no politics at all.
Well,
and if there is,
typically
it gets changed very quickly.
Typically it's the local news, but at 10 a.m. it becomes The View. It's WFAA for, I don't know how many hours is the local news on? 4?
Yeah, but
Good Morning America, I think, is on.
My point is they know that if you have it on local news, there's something that's going to be viewed as biased in some way.
There's bias in everything. It's everywhere. You can't put anything on. You can't even put music on these days without the bias being found. But it's, the thing is that the Jack Smith report went nowhere. There was nobody really talking about it in any effective way. It's like these things these parting shots on their way out the door. Oh, yeah, well, he would have been found guilty. Next. Everybody's looking at Biden burning the place down as he's walking out the door. Well, that's always been Biden. He doesn't care. He didn't care. He didn't care when he became president, when he ran for president. He didn't care when he was vice president. He didn't care when he was a senator. He doesn't care now. He's never cared about his legacy. He cared about enriching his family, Jack.
What I got out of yesterday, because there's a ton of things that happened yesterday, we've got so much to talk about, is the evidence, and we said this the day after Election Day, the Democrats aren't going to change.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the screeching, the level of irritation and insanity that comes from them I mean, my God. There is improvement, though. Two Democrats did say yesterday, finally, 2 Democrats did vote for in the House that men shouldn't play against women in sports.
Mm-hmm.
But the Democrats, trying to relate it to racism and civil rights, they are absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And it's still the mainstream of the Democratic Party.
Yep, they're fighting for it. This is something, again, this is the top of their agenda.
Yeah.
As they're being rejected more and more, they're fighting even harder.
And the insanity of where they stand on the issues and the loudness and the screeching has now even gone up to a different level.
Yeah. Yeah, it has.
And that's because, Raskin, you look at who the pit bulls were, Raskin and even, what's his name from New York? I can't think of his name. Oh, the other one. They aren't loud talkers.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of it. The Goldman.
Oh, well, Goldman's been the mouthpiece. He's done more good for the GOP.
Right. well, so did what we saw yesterday.
Yeah.
Because you saw it, because Hegseth was just, answering the questions and, no, here's how it goes and here's how it goes. And I think this is ridiculous. And this is almost everything was in generality. So.
Well, it was all, it was, it was all hypotheticals, you know.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Starting and charging system-related issues are one of the most common causes of winter breakdowns. So when your batteries talk, it's important you listen. Knowing the warning signs that could indicate your electrical system needs attention can help you avoid getting stuck out in the cold this winter. Dim lights are an early warning sign that your alternator is degrading and near the end of its life cycle. Lights that are brighter than normal, on the other hand, can indicate your alternator is overcharging. Get a full electrical system check if you notice your headlights getting dimmer or brighter.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
Red Eye Radio, he is Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Here is more from Pete Hegseth yesterday.
That's why I've pointed out before, and I'll say it again, and because I'm sure it'll be quoted to me at some point. The dumbest phrase in military history is "our unity is our strength." No, our shared purpose is our strength. Our shared mission is our strength. We are one DoD community of all committed to the same mission. Has nothing to do with your background. Has to do with what your commitment is to the country. And that is my solemn pledge to every single person that would put the uniform on and reflects President Trump's priorities as well.
Which I fully agree with. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's not about skin color. It isn't about unity. It's about your shared commitment, to the mission.
Yep.
That's what it is.
Right.
And why you decided to be, in the military to protect the United States of America. But we didn't learn anything new yesterday. There was nothing new. So I don't think many minds will be changed. I don't know if Trump's going to start making phone calls now after this. And I don't know, again, what the vote count is. We've talked about the possibilities of the Republicans that would not vote for him. You made a point during the break that Gallego of Arizona said he'd give him his chance to explain himself.
Well, and that was on women in combat, and that was back in November. But, he is a Purple State senator, and he is former military.
Yep.
So, Gallego. So, I don't know where he stands right now on Hegseth. But could it be Gallego and Fetterman? Could they be two Democrats?
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app, available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen to our podcast after our show is over.
And thank you.
And also, if you don't have access to one of our great radio stations that carries us, we stream the show also.
We do.
On our app.
Absolutely.
All right. More from Hegseth yesterday. Here he is talking about 4-star generals.
We won World War II with 7 4-star generals. Today we have 44 4-star generals. There's an inverse relationship between the size of staffs and victory on the battlefield. We don't need more bureaucracy at the top. We need more warfighters empowered at the bottom.
Then, of course, you had Scott Jennings, who talked about his performance on CNN.
Well, in short, I think Pete Hegseth kicked their asses today. I mean, it wasn't even close. They didn't lay a glove on Hegseth. No mistakes, calm, cool, collected. I mean, before the thing even started, you had this, like, Code Pink, protester freak show trying to disrupt the hearing. That's the Democratic base, by the way, which probably explains why the Democrats on the committee acted in such a bizarre and unprofessional way. I was appalled at some of the way these senators handled themselves and some of the lines of questioning. I mean, Tim Kaine sounded like a sex pervert in his questioning of Pete Hegseth. Blumenthal, who lied about his service in Vietnam, questioning Hegseth's qualifications. You had Gillibrand, you had Warren, you had Hirono going on unhinged rants about things. Angus King obviously doesn't understand what it's like to fight terrorism. On and on and on. Hegseth was cool in the face of this unhinged questioning. They made him look good today. It would be difficult for a Republican to vote against Hegseth after the Democrats' unseemly mudslinging today.
I agree.
Okay, that's what I came away with. That's funny that Jennings said that. I didn't hear him say that until just now. So thank you for playing that audio cut just for me, Gary.
You're welcome.
But that's what I thought. I thought, well, wait a minute here. If I'm a GOPer, let's say I'm Mitch McConnell, right, or one of them that's on the fence, according to the reports the other day, and he didn't have my vote. It reminds me a lot of what we went through with Lindsey Graham, the reawakening of Lindsey Graham. When you go back. So my question was to myself, well, I wonder how many of those GOP no votes now look at it and go, after this, we're going to have to stand together on this because we can't allow this kind of behavior by the left come off as tanking one of the nominees. Now, you still have to have confidence in Hegseth. You and I have talked about it. By the way, I think we have to be clear. When we were talking about the confirmation thing in the story the other day, that's the process. You and I both, and on that day, we were, again, restated, we didn't have any concerns about him being able to do the job.
No.
So, to be clear. But you got to get the votes to get there. You got to get through confirmation. That's how it works.
And Hegseth is going to do what Trump tells him to do.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, when you see a Secretary of Defense, especially a Secretary of Defense, because the president is commander-in-chief.
Right.
And Trump understands that. You basically get, the philosophy of the head of the Department of Defense mirrors what the president wishes to do.
Right,
That's why,
right.
For example, when you look at Biden and Lloyd Austin, that's why he could just disappear.
Right.
And nobody got upset because Biden was fine because Biden disappears.
Right.
And I know people are going, oh, that's just rhetoric. It's not.
No, it isn't.
It's not. Biden
That's
didn't.
left hand, right hand, right there.
Biden didn't care that he just disappeared.
Right.
And that's the other thing, too, when you look at this. And this is something, when you talk about politics, Republicans have to understand that the American public also can judge and look at and make the comparison between the Biden administration and the Trump administration.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's why Trump is in office now, because they've done that.
Right.
So you're going to have inside the Beltway the discussion about Hegseth. I don't think anybody outside of the Beltway is talking about this.
No.
They're still saying, okay, Trump goes in, let's see what he's let's see what he's going to do. And if you talk about Hegseth and his philosophy of what to do with the military, even though it's a broad brush. But again, can anybody tell me the specifics of Lloyd Austin? No. Because the philosophy of what you're going to do comes from the president through the Joint Chiefs, and then you've got the civilian head of the Department of Defense, who most likely will be Hegseth. I believe, as again, I don't know if he has the votes right now just because of the way they're talking. I believe he will have the votes. There's no reason, if you're a Republican, not to vote for him. And I can see Fetterman maybe voting for him. I can see, as you mentioned, I forgot about Gallego, but when you said it, I went, oh, yeah, I forgot about him in Arizona. He may be able to get his vote, because if Gallego's concern was about women, well, he covered that.
Right. Yep.
He covered that. He goes, if you can pass,
Yep.
the standards have
One
to be
standard.
One standard. That's all that matters. One standard. If you can do it, fine. And that's all that matters.
Right.
And so if you're Gallego, military past, he's taken away your excuse not to vote for him.
Right.
Now, as for Collins and Murkowski and Curtis from Utah and McConnell, I don't necessarily believe that McConnell's not going to vote for him.
Right. Yeah, out of those four. When the word got out that Joni Ernst yesterday was going to support him, I wondered about Murkowski and Collins. I wondered if is there any pull from Ernst, or even if she doesn't contact Collins and Murkowski, does her decision influence Collins and Murkowski? And I guess we'll see, but I'd be hard pressed to believe that if those were hard no's, like they were with Gates, that you would have seen the fight that you saw from him today. Hegseth was up there, and he was fighting. It was very clear. I think he came well prepared. The liberals were going to be as crazy as they've ever been. This is their first show, basically, since the election. And they showed at least part of themselves, the backside, over and over again. And I think Hegseth performed really well. And it gets back to what you just said, too. Under the commander-in-chief, this isn't like Secretary of State. Imagine, I know it would be impossible, it would never happen, but somebody like Hillary Clinton becoming the Secretary of State, somebody who's in charge of all the secrets. She'd probably be inclined to just set up a server in her own home. That's stupid. Don't hear me out. I know it's not going to happen. It would never happen. And that's what you have here. You have, as Secretary of Defense, you have somebody, that is the right hand of the commander-in-chief in that regard. Secretary of State is somebody who's overseeing all of the secrets and everything else, and that might be a different role, but Hegseth is clearly built as a member of the military to oversee the military. He's got a great concern. It's something that my dad has kind of shared with me over the years. My dad, the better part of 3 decades, just short of 3 decades of military experience, 2 foreign wars, and he's got a lot to say about how things are run, the VA and everything else, and a lot of veterans do, and which is the way it should be. There should be tons of input. All the input should be from those that are coming from that perspective, and it's important. And with Hegseth, I do believe, I think especially now, I think after what has happened since his nomination and how everything has been purged to the surface, I don't think you're going to find anything else there that would be a concern on Hegseth. I think any and all things are on the table, were on the table leading up to yesterday, and are out there, and that's where we are. And in the Senate, they're just going to have to make that decision. But I came away, like Jennings said. Yesterday I was like, you know what? If I'm a GOPer that was on the fence, or possibly a no vote, after yesterday, the display by the left, by those Democratic senators, was enough to put it over the top for me, not to get back at them, but there has to be, if there is one mission in terms of this administration, not just a military mission, but a mission overall, is to root out the rot. I believe Hegseth will do that. But more importantly, correct the standards for the military, which has been a complaint by veterans for a long, long time and ramped up to something over the top crazy in recent years, out of control. It needs to be put back in place. I have confidence he could do that.
When you know anything about the military and the chain of command, and you remember it was a year ago, I think, where probably the conversation was still going on. Lloyd Austin disappeared.
Yeah.
Nobody knew where he was.
Right.
There was no chain of command. The chain of command was broken. Lloyd Austin did not inform the President of the United States that he was in the hospital. Nobody knew where for 3 days. And think about that. For 3 days, the President didn't know. The Assistant Secretary of Defense didn't even know for 2 days.
Right.
Now, the first thing that you know when you're the head of the Department of Defense or in that chain of command, anything happens, you communicate that you're going to be out of the loop for some reason.
Right.
So you know it. Lloyd Austin, it was, prostate cancer, as we know, but the fact that he didn't immediately let his superior, the President of the United States, know, and let his department know, and people are questioning Hegseth?
Yeah.
You've got to understand just how serious that was, and the Democrats didn't give a damn about that at all.
Right.
There's a missing link in the chain of command, and nobody cared.
Nobody cared. The Democrats were silent on that.
Yeah. And so you look at it, and you're like, if you're a Republican, you've got to look at this, and you've got to say, well, good God, Hegseth's in.
Yeah. Right.
Look at what we were dealing with. And we'll talk more about that. Jake, what's his name? I got a mind blank here. The Secretary of State yesterday, or 2 days ago, talking about the fact that Hamas has got they've rebuilt, they've had just as many people in, as if that's a reason that we shouldn't fight Hamas. Right. Well, your damn administration made sure they were funded so they could do this.
Right. Yeah, and he wasn't the only one saying that. There was somebody else that said it yesterday. Same thing. It's a threat. America is a target, and that was related to the Israel and the war and with Hamas and everything else. The same thing. Anthony Blinken, were you talking about?
Yeah, Blinken. Yeah, Blinken was talking about.
And
I always. I don't know why I always confuse Blinken with Sullivan.
Yeah, Jake Sullivan.
You know why?
Yeah.
They're the same kind of BS.
It's the same.
That's what it is.
They all meld into the same mindset.
I know.
I mean, it is the same garbage coming from all of them.
Is Anthony Blinken? I'm shaking my head going, I'm screaming.
Yeah.
When I'm watching this going, you're an idiot.
Oh, man.
You're an absolute
every time
idiot.
He talks, my blood pressure goes through the roof.
We've had people that are in charge of the security of the United States.
Yeah.
That have worked against the people of the United States and the security of the United States.
And
people are worried about Hegseth?
While lecturing the people of the United States.
Yeah. 866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Yeah, Eric, don't you get the feeling sometimes that we live in a society right now where there are no standards for Democrats at all?
Right.
And it's almost, well, you've got to be almost to perfection, or almost you've got to be able to cross. And I would rather have that higher standard, by the way. But still, there's this higher standard of what's expected of Republicans and Democrats. It's like I said, Lloyd Austin just disappears for 3 days.
Yeah.
No big deal.
No
Whatever,
big
the
deal.
media doesn't care what's,
Right.
Whatsoever. Ensuring that Iran, can fund Hamas and Hezbollah.
Right.
No big deal at all.
No problem.
No
problem.
It's just, at times it could drive you crazy.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America. Welcome and good morning. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Thank you so much for being here this morning. So, interesting day yesterday. It's going to be an interesting rest of the week and an interesting next week, is it not?
I think it's going to be an interesting 4 years.
I'm going week by week.
Yeah.
But as we have seen, the Democrats are not changing at all. Maybe around the margins, with the vote yesterday in the House of Representatives, they got 2 Democrat votes.
Yeah.
For not allowing boys to play against girls from K through 12.
Yeah.
Yesterday,
Cuellar and Gonzalez from Texas.
Yes. But I'm telling you, that turned into a zoo yesterday. But the Democrats still show their utmost hatred for women and the misogyny that exists in there. It really, 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 really is incredible. I mean, I'm still shocked that that's a hill that they wish to die on.
Yeah. Well,
over and over again.
Mm. Yeah. It was weird when we first broke it down. Okay, this is going to be the cause, and then along with that, putting explicit material in books for 5-year-olds, and then they were going to fight for that. And I thought to myself, their entire agenda. What's happening at the meetings? What's going on? Because it's clearly coordinated. It is a shared culture. But it is widely shared. I think Disney went to war with DeSantis over that. Technically, actually, he went to war with DeSantis, but actually they were going to war. Disney was going to war with the parents, as we have said. And you're not going to win this.
By the
this
way,
is
I
what
think
happened in November.
I think you were the first one to ever say that.
And that's where we are.
You were the first one to say, this isn't a fight, Disney against DeSantis. This is Disney against the parents. You're the first one that I remember saying that.
It's not the left versus the right. Because we saw it in the school board meeting things and everything else that was going on, which was all a part of this battle against this culture. And when you saw it play out in the House yesterday, all but 2 Democrats still fighting to get their agenda done.
Yeah. All still, and we've stated this before, but since they keep using the same arguments, we'll keep using the same arguments against it because our arguments are correct. Identity politics and racism, which is racism. You
Right.
judge people by groups and not individuals. Is not as an individual, but as a group, is racism.
Yeah.
The Democrats own that. The mainstream of the Democratic Party owns racism. They proudly talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
And when it comes to hating of women, misogyny, with the radical transgender movement, they lead on it.
Yep.
And
They're looking to destroy the rights of women every single day.
I want to play this audio. This is from Nancy Mace yesterday because Representative Crockett from Texas just went bonkers.
Yeah.
This is a civil rights issue. It's the same as blacks and everything. And she was just out of control. In fact, we'll get to the out of control in a little bit where she calls Nancy Mace a child.
Yeah.
And then just take
Nancy
it out.
Mason wasn't going to stand for that.
Take it outside. But there's some choice words in here, but it needs to be all this. She's right on. She is right on. It's something, if you're a new listener to the show, Eric and I were talking about this a decade ago.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the fact, and if you're a longtime listener to the show, you know this. We were the first in the country. I don't remember anybody else bringing up that the women's rights movement would die in this country and the Democrats would kill it with the radical transgender movement.
Yep.
And that's exactly what happened.
That's where we are.
That's where we are. That feminism crumbled because the Democratic Party agreed that, number one, they couldn't identify what a woman is, but in the real world, they allowed men to define what a woman is. The man defined what a woman is, and the man told women, get out of sports, deal with it, we're going to take over.
Right.
And the feminist movement crumbled to the man's will.
Yep.
And they just, and you and I remember, and the final block that fell was Gloria Steinem.
Yeah.
When she said, oh, I'm completely and totally behind it. We
Yep.
went, there it goes.
Yep. It's over. Shut the
It's
door.
over. What you have seen, what you saw, especially in the Ivy League, you saw that, and the women that came forward and talked about the fact of how they were threatened, intimidated. They were threatened that their careers would be destroyed, not just their swimming careers, but the possibility of them not graduating from college because they were hate mongers for not wanting men to be in there. The whole radical transgender movement is a complete cluster. I mean, they don't even know. I mean, for God's sakes, as we have said, when you go back to Josh Hawley talking to the Berkeley professor, and he said, are you saying, well, she asked him, she said, do you believe that men can get pregnant? He goes, well, of course not. And he was trying to get her answers out of her. What are you exactly trying to sell me here? And she said, well, this entire line of questioning, you're transphobic. He goes, because I'm asking questions? And the argument is, and this is the most, think about this. For the national politics, this is one of the most bizarre arguments and defenses that you could possibly come up with. That what we're telling you is a man can be a woman if the man says so. And a biological woman, because that's why they're allowed to compete, because they are a woman. And Crockett said it yesterday. They are a transgender woman is a woman. Well, that's a lie. And then if you say, wait a minute, that's wrong, well, that's transphobic. What do you mean it's transphobic? Well, because transgenders have a much, 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 much higher rate of committing suicide, and so you shouldn't say that. Well, then your argument is, I should lie because somebody might commit suicide if I lie.
There's a mental health crisis you want to ignore.
Exactly.
And in fact, you support the mental health crisis. You work toward that effort, not fighting the mental health crisis, not trying to help people. You're hurting people by doing that, and that's your choice.
But then again, if you say there's a mental health crisis, then you're transphobic. But that's your explanation to me, is that it's a mental health crisis. And you're like going, this thing's going around in circles here.
Well, that's the rule book of the left, because it changes every single day. They run into their own brick walls every day. They paint themselves in a corner all the time.
And so this whole thing that the left cares about transgenders, they don't give a damn about transgenders.
No.
They don't care.
No.
And so you got to blow that argument out of the water, too. They actually don't care about the mental health.
No.
They're saying...
They acknowledge the crisis,
right,
and then say, everybody quiet. Let's not do it. We're not going to do anything about it. In fact, nobody talk, because it's a problem.
Right, exactly. Nobody addressed the problem. Yeah, but you said there's a problem. I know I said there's a problem, but you wanting to discuss the problem is transphobic.
Right.
Now, I don't even know what the transphobic means anymore. What does it actually mean? You're transphobic. What does that mean? I'm not afraid of anybody. Phobic means being afraid, right? Well, I'm not afraid.
Yeah, it's the tactic by the left to try and shut down the debate.
Right. Define what that means. But the reason is they can't make the argument, so they throw in that you don't care because these people, that transgenders will commit suicide.
You're full of hate, and you're responsible for the suicide rate in that community,
right,
because you're asking questions.
Yes.
That's an attempt. That is a radical attempt to shut down the debate.
But again, some choice words in here, but here's Representative Nancy Mace yesterday. Here we go. And by the way, this is in response to Representative Crockett, who brought up the whole civil rights movement. I'm telling you, to promote misogyny and using the civil rights movement to do so, oh, good God.
Yeah.
You can't sell that. But here we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I don't know what's going on today. I find it extremely rich and offensive. So we're talking about civil rights. I'm the former ranking member on the Civil Rights Subcommittee, something I believe in civil rights and civil liberties of all Americans. And we were talking about infringement of individual people. Also, quote, the right to privacy of individuals. Coming from a party that can't define what a woman is and won't give women the right to privacy. You all want men with penises, chicks with dicks, in the bathroom with us. You want women to be forced to undress in front of men in the locker room and in dressing rooms. And it's so hypocritical for you to sit here and say and be, screaming from the rooftops about the right to privacy and civil rights when you don't respect women. And you don't respect women who've been raped, women who are victims of sexual abuse. And you want me, a victim of rape, a survivor of rape, to go into a locker room and be forced to undress in front of a man? You have to be effing kidding me.
There you go.
Yep. And they're fighting for it every day. The left is fighting for it on Capitol Hill, all but 2 Democrats fighting for it still, even after the election.
Here's Riley Gaines, again, who was threatened, intimidated, bullied. Here she is on the House vote yesterday.
And I'm a former collegiate swimmer from the University of Kentucky. First, and let me echo Speaker Johnson's gratitude for the people who stand alongside me, behind me, their leadership on this issue, how they have stood firm, the flack that you all have taken. I know it's not easy, but nonetheless, it's necessary, and I would argue that it's urgent. And so I thank you all. And I'm thrilled with the passage of H.R. 28, the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act. But truthfully, I'm mad. I'm mad that this is something we have to do. I'm mad that we as women have to beg for equal rights. I'm mad that we have to beg for privacy in areas of undressing. And I'm mad that we have to beg for safety on the court or on the field or walking in the streets at night, for that matter. Here's some of the things. Let's just go through a couple of the things we heard on the House floor today from Democrats. We heard of things like genital exams. We heard that girls will be asked to show what's in their underwear. We heard that they have to show internal and external anatomy, inspections, Taliban-like enforcers, hire predators to peek at girls, on and on and on. Weird fear-mongering about predators. But that's what Democrats do best. If you don't know what they're up to, just look at what they're accusing the right of. There have only been a few girls. Another thing they said, there's only a few girls who have been injured at the hands of a boy. It's such a small percentage. I heard that this bill is a waste of time. And let me tell you the message I received when I heard that, is that I'm a waste of time. Girls around the country, just like me, are a waste of time. Your daughters are a waste of time to all House Democrats except the two who voted in favor of the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act. But to Speaker Johnson's point, the American people spoke on November 5th. The common sense, everyday Americans who intuitively know that men and women are different. We reject this notion. While I certainly believe people turned out to the polls to embrace Donald Trump, to embrace his cabinet picks, to embrace the America First agenda, more so, truthfully, I believe that people turned out to the polls on November 5th to reject absurdity. And that is entirely and thoroughly what the Democratic Party has become, absurd.
Riley Gaines yesterday. We'll talk more about this coming up. 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
After fuel, an owner-operator's second biggest variable cost is tires. To save, get as much life out of them as possible with good habits. Maintain proper inflation. It's free and easy, yet it's the highest saving maintenance you can perform on the truck. Improper inflation is by far the greatest reason tires fail early. Perform routine maintenance. If a technician can by hand initiate irregular movements in tie rod ends, kingpins, wheel bearings, and torque rods, that spells trouble. Fight irregular wear by replacing suspension components. On the steer axle, change your shocks at least as often as you change your tires. On the drive axle, replace shocks halfway through the tire's life, and when the tires are changed too. Finally, employ good driving habits. You have full control here. More conservative driving over rough surfaces helps reduce wear. Speeding, hard braking, curbing, and tight turns cause tires to wear fast. On the other hand, steady acceleration, braking, and steering can extend the life, saving a bundle. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section on the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Carly and I'm Gary McNamara. So then it went back and forth. We had mentioned Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, by the way, who represents the district that I live in by about 300 to 500 yards.
Man, you need to move.
I can show you the road.
Yeah.
But this is the insanity as she refers to Nancy Mace as child, as she promotes her self-misogyny. Here we go.
Somebody's campaign coffers really are struggling right now. So she gonna keep saying trans, trans, trans so that people will feel threatened. And child, listen, I want y'all to tell me whether or
Do
not
call me a child. I am no child.
I want
Don't
to
even
find
start.
out
I am a grown
which
woman.
of those
I'm 47 years
emails
old. I have broken
actually
more
have
glass ceilings than you
Chairman,
ever
I
will.
am reclaiming my
Let's go.
time.
You will not do that. I
Order.
am not a
Chairman,
child.
I am
not a
reclaiming
child.
my time.
If you want to take it outside,
Mr. Chairman, the committee is not
Okay.
in order.
Order.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are we taking it outside? I guess they didn't.
I guess the question for Representative Crockett, who represents me, my first question, why do you hate women?
Right. Why aren't you standing up for the rights
Yeah.
of women?
For her to bring in the civil rights,
Yeah. That's
to,
rich.
to make the comparison as she did yesterday to the civil rights movement.
Right. Well, the Civil Rights Act is gone. If anybody can belong to any protected class as outlined by the Civil Rights Act simply by saying so.
I will say this. Her childish opinions and narrative are pure self-misogyny.
Yeah.
Why do Democrat women hate women? Can you answer me that question?
Right.
Why do you hate women? What is it? When did you change?
Right.
What was the catalyst to make you say, let men dominate?
Right.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. You can listen to our podcast. You can stream our show. You can do a bunch of different things with our Red Eye Radio app.
And thank you.
Download it today. It's free for a limited time only. No, it's always free. I want to make that clear.
But if you act now, you can get 2 for the same low price.
Oh, you know what I saw? They're finally doing it. Did you see it? Completely off the topic, but it just popped into my mind. You see DirecTV is now coming up with mini packages, like you can get just a sports package, and they're going to be doing this now more sort of, not totally a la carte, but sort of getting to that point.
And a streaming thing that they're going to do. I forget what that was. I know that I saw a local headline about the Texas Rangers. They picked a streaming partner, basically, as we predicted years ago, that professional sports would likely start. I mean, you go where the audience is, right? If people are cutting the cable, you want people to see the game, then you're going to have to be, anywhere the game's going to have to be available.
Mm-hmm.
With baseball having 2,800 games a season. But it is interesting watching all of that roll out. Amazon picked up Thursday night football. Anybody got Wednesday night football yet, or Tuesday night football? I mean, those are the only 2 we're missing, I think. Friday night football, that's high school, y'all. Don't mess with that. But you look at all the streamers getting in on it. I think Netflix is doing some NFL stuff, aren't they? I have Netflix, and I don't know.
Yes.
But it's inevitable. You're going to see. It is. Everything is fragmented. We go to multiple places for entertainment, and that's a problem for cable. That's a problem for DirecTV. You're going to have to find that audience. You're going to have to find those subscribers. I don't know.
By the way, you were almost dead on the number of games.
What?
161 games, 30 teams.
Yeah, okay.
Which would be 48-30, but you divide it in 2 because 2 teams play in a game.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, there you go.
So roughly 2,400.
Right.
You weren't. I'm sitting there going, I wonder. Let me. Boy, aren't smartphones great?
Yeah.
I described my smartphone when
right. Having a smart radio host would be even better.
But I did. By the way, our app is always free. I was going to say the app is always free for the first 3 months. No. It's always free. But that's what I saw in the ad for DirecTV. It said the price will be $49.99 for the first 3 months.
Yeah, the asterisk.
And then they didn't say how much afterwards.
Right.
I'm like,
well,
why
you have
don't
to call them to find out.
No. Well, no, but it was the story on it. It wasn't the promotion from DirecTV.
Okay. All right.
It was the story, and I'm like, finish the dang story.
Yeah.
What's it afterwards?
Yeah,
not that I was going to get it, but
well, I'm curious too to follow that trend of where it's going to go. The problem that they have is that, like YouTube is the platform, but if you think about it, I mean, I don't know how many channels YouTube has. Somebody's got to know. YouTube has to know that. I don't know if they promote that. But there's so many channels that you can choose from. And that's the thing, is that different types of entertainment from, and depending on what you want, that's all over the place. And I said this the other day. Elon Musk said, you are the media, which means you have the ability to find the truth. You can go find the story yourself. You can find the truth, and you have the ability, if you've got the will, you can do it. And so you are the media. And the liberal media went crazy over that. But in terms of Hollywood, it's not just because I'm no longer in the demographic, but I don't see anything creative coming out of Hollywood. And there's so much hit and miss, They used to know what the audience wanted. Here's the difference. They used to cater to what the audience wanted. Now they believe you should watch what they want you to watch, and they're going to put their messaging and everything in it. So it's not about what you want. And I don't, there's no way. That's not a long-term business model. They're becoming less and less relevant. There are a few good movies out there. But my gosh, when's the last time a really great comedy came out?
I think of, it goes back to the late 80s, early 90s. And I can still remember suggesting movies to my mom, and there were a ton of them that I suggested to her. And when I was younger, I mean, in my 20s, as I've talked about it before, in my 20s, I mean, my parents and I, we were, there was no problem, but we didn't communicate. We actually didn't talk about things.
Right.
And it's when I became a radio talk show host. Think about that. When I became a radio talk show host, that they found out what I thought about things. And I'll never forget being over at their house one day, Saturday morning, and my mother and father just looking at me going, all right, those things you said on the air that we've been listening to, do you really think those things? And I'm like panicking inside going, oh my gosh, this is going to be a war. How do I get out of this? Figured, I don't know what I've said that they object to. And I said, yeah, I do believe those things. Oh, thank God, our son. I mean, it was completely reversed.
Right.
And so when I would suggest, even in my 20s, movies to my mom, she'd go, I don't want to watch the stuff you'd want to watch.
Right.
My mom always thought because I was in rock radio, that I was hiding, that this was when I was younger, that I was some kind of, wild person, and I never was. But she just assumed because I was in rock radio and I wanted to do things like stand-up comedy, she figured that was just foreign to her, and she just thought I was wild. And in your 20s, you just don't get into detailed explanations with your parents. You just don't. I didn't. And then in my 30s is when I started really building a bond, with my parents. So by that time, the late 80s, whatever, I mean, I was in my 30s at that time, and I had been in talk radio. My mother, she agreed with the things that I believed in.
Yeah.
And then, oh my gosh, we raised a good son. I remember I would suggest almost a movie a week to her, and I would be watching a movie a week. By the time I got to the late 90s, I think I'd watched every movie, and there were no movies left. And now it's one thing that I really miss. There's not really movies I want to watch anymore. I don't sit there and go, oh, I got to make sure I see this. So that sounds interesting, or that sounds good, or this sounds good.
Right.
Now, I mean, right now, the only thing I think of, and, I have Prime. It's like, but, the guy who plays Reacher is an idiot, as you found out with some of the things, he's been saying.
He went on Kimmel, I think, between the seasons, between last season and the new season coming out. And I'm like, okay, I'm out.
Yeah. But that would be the only thing, because I see it all over the place. Reacher coming, Reacher. And it's Reacher, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to make sure I had the right one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow. And it's a very well done. I mean, it's very well done.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, I don't know of anything else. I don't know of anything else out there that I look at. And, the talk with, we talked about the Golden Globes and the Oscars coming up. And I forgot who was saying, used to have 100 million people, 80 million people watch the Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's down to, 20-something.
Because Hollywood was making movies that were widely popular.
Yeah.
And they were catering to an audience. They haven't really catered to the movie-going audience in a while. Look, the superhero movies they make $1 gazillion each. But I haven't seen one in a while. I don't know if they ran that through I don't know if that one is, already burned out, if they kind of spent that on the movie public or that whole thing is over. I don't know. But they don't. There were movies where they really worked for that audience, what that audience wanted. And now it's, let us preach to you what we think you should be seeing. And it's from the top down. Well, your moviegoers make all your money for you. It's somebody posted a meme the other day. Hollywood finally found a way to end the pirating of movies by making movies that nobody would want to watch, even for free. And that sums it up, really.
No, that's a great line. It really is. Well, and we mentioned it during the Golden Globes. I went down through the list. I only had heard of one TV show and one movie.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm not paying it. If you're online, and I'm online constantly and everywhere, I see the movies, out there, but I just ignore them completely. There's no buzz on any of them.
Right.
And that's really, you hear the buzz. Hey, did you see this movie? Nobody ever talks about movies anymore. They really don't.
No.
And I find that incredible, because you would you think, people have always wanted escapism. And movies used to be one of the places you would go.
Yeah.
And it's just when the Golden Globes are out there, I'm like, I don't know anything. And as you know, because of streaming and all the different, movie channels out there doing their own movies, there's more of a selection than you could possibly ever imagine. It's like, don't care. Don't care. I knew that there was a problem when a few years ago I actually spent money just to have the commercials off of YouTube. And I watch more YouTube than anything else. And mostly it's individuals doing interesting things. And I always use as a reference point the guy who built the pond. I think he lives in Nebraska or Iowa or something like that. But he built a pond in his backyard and went through the entire process of doing it. Well, those kind of things where people say, I've got this project here, I'm going to build this here in the woods, or I'm going to do this. It's like, wow, how are you going to do that? I find that more interesting than anything that Hollywood is putting out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
people doing different things, people being productive in different ways.
I go back to the TV shows. You remember the fishing TV shows on Saturday morning?
Yeah.
And those were always great. But now on YouTube, there are so many fishing channels that you can, and it's great. I love watching them. But there's also the interaction. Click the like button, subscribe, leave a comment down below. But the leave a comment down below thing is, first of all, if you're going to monetize that's critical, because they want interaction. They want to see people are interacting with these videos that actual humans are watching. But you can see that I don't really read the comments, But when you feel like you can interact, when you can post something, imagine you were watching a movie and you're like, oh, man, I'd like to respond to that. And you could respond to that, right?
Yes.
Like, that's a load of crap. I just want to, that was fake, John Wick. Anyway, it's those things, change the experience. It brings you closer to the content creator. But I thought the other day, I don't know what Hollywood does for a future, and I'm not sure that I care.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
Red Eye Radio, he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Supreme Court case the justices are going to hear. We'll get to that here in just a little bit. Wildfire politics, still climate change out there. It's really interesting after the Democrats' loss, and a clear loss on all the major issues where they stand. Because remember, where the public stands on the issues is actually worse than how the public votes for Democrats.
Yeah.
And the fact that they keep doubling down on everything, I find that pretty amazing. There seems to be no reckoning with what happened in November or where the public actually stands. So we will get to that and a whole bunch more. We got so much going on.
Yeah, what a day it was yesterday. The Hegseth hearing was quite active. I mean, that was the thing. I was actually, I was glued to it, the whole time. It was the back and forth was very, very intriguing.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
And here we are. It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Hi. How you doing?
Hello.
Uh-oh, CNBC. The federal budget, boy, I'm telling you, they're going out with the bang.
Are they?
Federal budget sank further into debt during December, leaving the first fiscal quarter deficit 40% higher than it was the prior year. For the final calendar month of 2024, the shortfall totaled $86.7 billion, which actually represented a 33% decline for the same period a year before. However, that brought the three-month fiscal year total to $710 billion. That's 3 months. 3 months, $710 billion. Multiply that times 4. You're almost at $3 trillion of debt a year. That was some $200 billion more than the comparable period in the prior year. Rising finance costs, the interest rate, which you said has the potential to kill everything, along with continued spending growth and declining tax receipts, have combined to send deficits spiraling. Though short-term Treasury yields have held fairly steady over the past month, rates at the far end of the duration curve have surged. The benchmark 10-year note recently yielded close to 4.8%, almost a half percentage point above where it was a month ago. Interest on the national debt has totaled $308 billion in fiscal 2025. Interest on the debt for the first 3 months, $308 billion. Multiply that times 4. 1.2 trillion.
Just the interest.
Just the interest. Financing costs are projected to top 1.2 trillion for the first full year. You go back 10 years ago, what was it, 250 billion? Or 10 times higher on interest rates?
Mm-hmm.
The government this year has spent more on interest payments than any other category but Social Security, defense, and health care. I don't know how they say that because defense was what? 800 billion last year?
Mm-hmm.
Unless they did a lot of spending in that first quarter.
Maybe.
The other thing is, as we saw the screeching yesterday, it's going to be a new word for the Democrats now.
Mm-hmm.
They've entered the screeching zone where everything now is screeching.
Yeah.
It's got to be louder, and the octave has to be higher in order to convince Americans that, well, you say we're wrong on the issues, but we're going to scream louder and higher. And if we scream louder and higher, a billion more times, maybe you'll see that we're right. Or you just say, all right, just give them what they want. Just shut up.
Right.
But what you saw yesterday, what I saw yesterday, especially with Biden now out, and you and I have asked the question, we've asked it a few times in the last couple of weeks, who is the leader of the Democratic Party right now? Who's the leader? And this is from USA Today. Not exactly a bastion of conservative narrative. The Democratic Party has a leadership crisis in 2025. In this article, we polled the question last week. When asked to name the leader of the Democratic Party, nearly half of all registered voters nationally couldn't name a person or volunteered nobody. For the record, here is a list of open-ended responses to the question from the Suffolk University USA Today poll of registered voters taken between January 7th and January 11th. Who is the leader of the Democratic Party? Number one, 30% don't know. 19%, nobody. That's 49%. Kamala Harris, 10%. Yeah, but that ends in 3 days. Hakeem Jeffries, 9%. Barack Obama, 8%. Gavin Newsom, 3%.
3? How did he get 3?
Nancy Pelosi, 3%. Chuck Schumer, 3%. Wow. Joe Biden, 2%. By the way, I know people don't realize it, but he is still president.
He's the current president. Biden, 2% call him the leader of the party. Well, actually, that's highly accurate.
Now, remember, they just didn't ask Democrats; they asked people across the board.
Right.
So you're going to get, there probably would be some sarcasm from Republicans.
Just a little.
Right. So Barack Obama 8%, Gavin Newsom 3%, Nancy Pelosi 3%, Chuck Schumer 3%, Biden 2%, AOC 2%, George Soros 1%, Bernie Sanders 1%, Pete Buttigieg 1%, and John Fetterman 1%. Here's the point, though. Fetterman might be because of where he stands on the issues, might be what where the Democratic Party should be going. But
yeah,
nobody would believe it. It's like when Harris flip-flopped on all the major issues, nobody bought it. Nobody believed it. Not even
Right.
Democrats. They didn't
Right.
believe it.
Right.
Let's start with 19% of the voters who responded nobody. As for the nobody, as you might expect, more Republicans, 22%, gave this response, but 26% of independents did too. Independents are key to winning the midterm and presidential elections, as we just witnessed. This is fertile ground for a populist Democrat to fill this blank space among this important segment of the electorate. One point to consider, 4 years ago, Donald Trump's net favorability among independents was a whopping minus 22%. Today, it's minus 5, which is really interesting. But
All right.
there
Yeah.
you are. That's nobody knows who's in charge.
Well,
But-
because nobody is.
Yeah, nobody is in charge. Yeah.
Nobody's in charge of the party. This is what you get when you go through years and years of, again, creating more victims, which means that you have a new subgroup every day of victims, which means everybody that was in their group yesterday is now by default the oppressor. You're just fragmenting to the nth, and it never ends. They're not going to stop doing that, and they wonder why they can't find a leader.
Well, Democrats, you need to know this. The purpose of a political party is to unite and bring more people into your party based on where you stand on the issues.
Yeah.
Or if you can find a deity-like personality like Obama and BS the public because they can be a bunch of tools and go, oh, yeah, this guy, yep. Hope and change. Yeah, that's it. I'm willing to be a sucker one more time. Let's go for hope and change. Now it's like Obama. He's getting, what was he? Some liberal was pounding him the other day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was because of the, of him smiling with, laughing.
Yeah, with Trump.
With Trump. And it's like, you're a hypocrite. You're a hypocrite. You're being the left. They were going crazy.
Yeah.
So now he's even lost it. When you look at it, and Clinton, remember how Clinton, now nobody looks at, remember how Clinton was like the best president ever? Now nobody talks about him anymore.
No.
Who still talked about Reagan? Why? He had specific things and issues that he was extremely strong on.
Right.
You and I always talked about for years after Clinton was done in office, how many times did he regret that the majority of things that he did while he was in office that got news that he was credited for, he now regrets doing?
Yeah. I signed it, but I wish I hadn't.
Yeah.
He went on the View apology tour. I'm sorry, ladies.
And you look at it and, we were, of course, there was some trolling and taunting here when way back in July and August, when all of a sudden Kamala Harris is like, no, I'm going to be tougher on the border than Trump, and I want to do this. And she reversed 4 or 5 positions that she held that Trump has owned, and we came out and said Trump has united the nation. Trump is the great uniter because now Kamala Harris agrees with him on all the major issues. Now, of course, we were trolling, but there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
He won because people agreed with him on the issues and disagreed with the Democrats on the issues. He united people and brought independents and some Democrats to vote for him because they went, hey, Democrats, you're insane.
Yeah.
And I'm coming from the point of these Democrats or independents. And we still wonder about Trump, but he's sane on the issues.
Well, that's it. If you look at it, the connection that Trump has with people is on the issues. You said it back in 2016.
Yeah.
He's acknowledging the issues. The left refuses to acknowledge the issues. And when you fast forward to 2024, reality was the issue. because the issues were reality. That's inflation, the border. Think about it.
I just like the way you put it, because the issues are reality versus delusions.
I mean,
but it's so true.
Because with everything that was broken, the border, inflation, and you can couple national security with the border, crime,
energy, where where it's good. The electricity. You look at the states. That electricity prices are a lot greater, and
the culture war to take control of people's children. Yeah. That the left started with the parents of America, that you're never going to win. I said you weren't going to win it, and I was right. You'll never win that war. And that's the difference, is that people wanted sanity. I know in my heart of hearts there are rank-and-file Democrats looking at this whole thing going, we're screwed. We're doomed as a party. Because everything, the wildfires, climate change. There, I guarantee you, there are Democrat rank-and-file people out there that probably subscribe to the climate change thing, but look at the wildfire thing and go, don't blame this on climate change. There's a reason that you should be able to get water out of fire hydrants. There's a reason for the mismanagement of water. It was a series of decisions. And this is apparent to everybody, unless you just want to go out of your way and either lie about it or be blind and ignore it. And that's the difference. The left, who's acknowledging the issues? You have Newsom out there, Gavin with the good hair, and he's, it's the breakdown really is perfect. And Mel Gibson said it the other day on Fox, spend less on hair gel. But his image is everything. He's out there, looks like he's posing for the cameras. And photo ops are a real thing and a constant in American politics. But the photo op comes from you also doing the work. The work comes first in the wake of this kind of event, these wildfires, and you're just, the mom confronting him the other day was the best thing to happen in that moment to show his lack of leadership. That mom, again, you're not going to win it with parents. Don't BS the parents. And sure as hell don't come after our kids, because you won't win.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning, and welcome. Just covering a few other topics before we get back to wildfire politics, Hegseth, and more. President-elect Donald Trump is reportedly being praised by Arab officials for doing more to move Israel and Hamas closer to a hostage and ceasefire deal than President Joe Biden has done in more than a year since the last truce. Trump warned Hamas at the beginning of December that there would be all hell to pay if they did not release all 100 remaining hostages, including 7 Americans, 3 of whom are alive, they say, by his inauguration. Hamas began to show flexibility, then retreated, but Trump's future Mideast envoys fanned out across the region, and Trump apparently pressured Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu to show greater flexibility as well. This is what the Times of Israel reported on Tuesday. A tense weekend between the Prime Minister Netanyahu and incoming Mideast envoy Steve Witkoff led to a breakthrough in the hostage negotiations, with the top aide to U.S. President-elect Donald Trump doing more to sway the premier in a single sit-down than outgoing President Biden did all last year, two Arab officials told the Times of Israel on Tuesday. And again, there's no specifics on it, and none of this is actually official because it's the incoming envoy.
Right.
And we'll see what happens on this. But I hope that Trump doesn't make the mistake of allowing Hamas to continue. But what we got from, Hegseth the other day, he wants every member of Hamas dead.
Yeah.
If that's the philosophy of Trump, and I believe it is, that's a good thing. And what I wonder is, when Trump is one of the first things he's going to do next week, to put, again, the hold on any oil money going to Iran?
I would think that it would have to be. I don't know how you don't make that one of your first moves. That is a critical component to all of this, the funding. And that has to be one of the first moves. But haven't heard anything like that yet. But I wouldn't be shocked if that does happen. I would expect it, in fact. So we'll see. But ultimately, that has to be your long-term goal, the all-out elimination of Hamas. And don't know the strategy and the talks and everything else here just yet, but we'll certainly be learning a lot more about it after January 20th.
Yeah,
no doubt.
By the end of next week.
Yep.
Maybe by Tuesday we should know.
We might.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. You can listen to our podcast, which comes on right after the show is over. So if you don't catch all of the show, you can catch it after. Or don't forget, if you can't listen to one of your favorite radio stations, we also stream the show on our app. So.
It's not just the podcast. It's also the live show. All 5 hours.
Yep. So, as we get close to another but new Trump presidency, you do have some in the liberal media. Not a lot, but you do have some questioning what's wrong. I went to Vox, and there's a headline there. Have the past 10 years of Democratic politics been a disaster? A conversation with Matthew Yglesias. Now, he's a well-known liberal out there. And all I have to do is go to the first paragraph of it. All right?
All right.
In the wake of Donald Trump's victory last November, Matthew Yglesias published a manifesto imploring the Democratic Party to re-embrace common sense. Specifically, in his newsletter, he called on Democrats to redouble their party's commitment to economic growth, honor the electorate's moral values, reject identity politics, abandon language policing, and moderate on a wide assortment of issues.
Well, that's not asking much.
Well, for those Democrats out there, you guys have it all wrong. Matthew Yglesias, who I have disagreed with probably 95 to 99% of the time as a liberal, realizes what he believed in the past isn't working.
Right.
Here's the problem with all Democrats. They really don't believe in this stuff. They're looking of how can we win, not what do we believe.
Certainly a number of them. Yeah.
Yeah. It's how can we win, because it covers everything right there. He called on Democrats to redouble their party's commitment to economic growth.
Yeah.
Democrats aren't concerned with economic growth. Honor the electorate's moral values. I don't think so. Reject identity politics. Reject racism is what he's saying. We need to reject racism. Honor the electorate's moral values. Well, that could be a number of areas.
Yeah.
Abandon language policing. Pronouns.
Basically, stop being Democrats.
Yes.
And that's all they have to do. That one thing. Stop being Democrats. Just that one small thing. How many times have we heard this from various people? You know, what we need to do is stop being Democrats.
But then he doesn't even get it. Listen to this. Are you ready for this? He talks economic. I think that the Green New Deal concept made a lot of sense as an effort to square reducing climate change with addressing people's material economic needs, but it was designed for a specific moment in time. The premise of the Green New Deal is that you have a depression, and so you're going to address people's depression-induced material problems with a New Deal, and then you're going to make it that Green New Deal. So it makes perfect sense, except there wasn't a depression. And that then requires new thinking, but instead we wound up pursuing energy-efficient rules for dishwashers and blocking offshore drilling in different places and blocking pipelines, which is out of line with the official idea that we want to address climate in a way that was good for jobs. He's all over the place, is he not?
This is the problem. You can't unmarry it, can you? You can't unindoctrinate the masses, even yourself. If you've been a part of it this whole time, you can't just go, unless you were lying and you're willing to say I was lying on everything and I don't believe any of this. But that's not what he's saying, though. He can't undo it, but he knows what's going on. He knows why people aren't voting for them.
Well, the Green New Deal, he's making stuff up. AOC, when she introduced the Green New Deal, had nothing to do that we were in a depression.
No.
Nothing to do. We weren't in a depression or a recession.
No.
This is what they believe of government, more government control of capital.
Mm-hmm.
If you have government control of more of the capital, you have less economic growth. So the entire concept, in a depression or not, is to have the government control more of the capital, which then you believe somehow means more and an increase in economic growth, and it's the reverse of that.
Right.
And how do we know that? Because Democrats have told us that. Remember, and liberals have told us that. Remember what the Democrats agreed with. Remember with the whole UN climate change report. They believed in order to get to the climate change goals that they want, remember, you had to reduce economic growth by 13% in the next 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the former Oregon governor that came out and said the only way to get a hold of climate change is to reduce economic growth.
Mm-hmm.
And so Iglesias is all over the place here. Number one, the premise he sets, well, the Green New Deal was for a depression. You're making that up.
Yeah, it's always this, it turns into this bizarre effort. Just when you think, oh, look, one of them gets it. Every single time there's this, yeah, but the problem was we didn't do the Green New Deal at the time.
Right.
Well, what? No. Can you imagine if they had gotten that done? Oh, my gosh. What inflation would be? Yeah, it's a desperate effort. You're pointing at some of the things that he's right on. And he's pointing over here, and he's right on some of those things, and then totally undercuts it with the whole Green New Deal thing. And, but it's the delusional mindset that will never, you're never going to be able to make that work, to make that jive with mainstream, because the radical thought behind the Green New Deal, my gosh, what was the total on that? Over 100 trillion long term?
Yeah, I think it was, something like that, between 90 and 100 trillion.
And all of this massive government control. If the Democrats had won, none of these people would be saying, the problem is they wouldn't look at any of the problems. They would just ignore it and say, see, we're doing all the right things, and it would be more spending and everything else. Thank goodness that didn't happen. But they're not done. I mean, this is somebody who's recognizing some of the problems on the left, but then throws out, the biggest problem, we didn't get that Green New Deal done. What? What?
Because there wasn't a depression.
Right.
Well, he's making that up. That was not. Did you ever hear AOC or anybody else talking about the Green New Deal, that this is what will get us out of the a depression?
No.
Or this? Nobody was talking about that. He just made that up.
If you want to kill industry and send us into a depression,
then he gets to crime. A lot of thinking around criminal justice and immigration enforcement issues have proven to be pretty much a total dead end. He means for Democrats. The desire to bring more humanity to these systems is understandable and correct. And for a while, progress was being made. We had less crime and incarceration rates. They were falling in the United States. But starting in 2017 and accelerating in 2020, you just had a move to say, well, we should care less about crime outcomes. Well, people notice that, and they don't like it.
Well, it turns out people don't like that.
People don't like
Wow.
crime.
Yeah.
And government enabling crime.
Yeah.
Crime came back on the table as an issue. It's good that the homicide rate has fallen again from its 2021 peak, but there's all these other concerns that people have about shoplifting and public disorder and people breaking immigration laws.
That people have about it. All these people have concerns with this crime.
And it's just going to be tough, I think, for Democrats to rebuild trust on these kind of issues. It's lost. You should be lenient to criminals isn't really part of the core suite of ideas that gets people invested in progressive politics. And the criminal justice system is probably the single biggest thing that impacts both actual state governance and political perceptions very, very heavily. Look, there's a reason why these kinds of concerns attach themselves to a broader progressive project. On crime, I think it's a clear dichotomy. Fighting racial discrimination in the criminal justice system is a core Democratic value. It relates to the civil rights movement. It's always something that's worth looking into and being vigilant about. But there really was a turn to the idea that being tough on crime is per se unprogressive. I think a big part of the message of the movement of non-white voters towards Trump in the last election is the actual communities that we're talking about don't see it that way. These are people who are most exposed to public disorder and to crime problems, and they don't like it. Democrats, maybe we ought to reconsider that our constituents don't like crime in their neighborhoods.
They don't like crime. Have we ever considered that? That crime is bad?
Oh, my gosh.
Wow. Yeah, that's, again, this walking on eggshells phrasing here. Instead of saying crime is destructive to neighborhoods and communities, and that's never going to work when we have a system that gives deference to the criminals. He talks about bringing humanity into it. No, all of us who are pro-law enforcement already have humanity built in. We have humanity and concerns for the humans who are the victims of the crimes.
This one addresses Newsom's, recent lies about, climate change, and his policies are bringing down energy costs, which again is just, that's almost to the point of gaslighting. To the extent that the party has abandoned the working class as it's grown more affluent, it's done so on climate by not caring about people's energy costs.
Yeah.
It's not the affluent suburbanites who bear the consequences if shoplifting explodes out of control in urban neighborhoods. Ooh. So right there, the climate change lie, energy will be cheaper. He addresses it right there.
Yeah.
Look, any Democrat listening, we have not been lying to you over the last 10 years, since 10 years is what they're looking at, is what they're looking at right now.
Mm-hmm.
Democrats are mirroring exactly what we say is the problem with your party.
Yep.
But the fact is, they can't change. And they're not changing, as we've seen just yesterday.
Nope, they're not.
They have to promote ideas that the average person looks at and says, that's insane.
Yeah, the radicals aren't gone. They're as loud as ever. They're not done.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. That's one thing I've been doing over the last, really since the election, is always scanning for different articles from intellectually honest liberals or Democrats.
Yeah.
Who know what the problem is, know that it's the stance on the issues.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the Democrats, they're insane on the issues.
Yeah.
And they're misogynistic on the issues with the radical transgender movement. They're racist with the identity politics that they promote over and over again. And another article was written yesterday that we'll get to following the top of the hour, saying the exact same thing. The headline, Democrats' continued fixation on identity politics carries risks. Early signs indicate the party is not feeling pressured to change course again. Saying this is the problem. They don't get it. They keep promoting racism, misogyny, and insanity.
Well, again,
And
you've
it's not
indoctrinated generations of people. You're not going to change them. This is the core of who they are as people.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, good morning. We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Another day. We were talking about whether the Democrats are going to change. The Democrats themselves said we've got to change, but they're not changing on anything. You look at the insanity of the radical transgender movement yesterday, and except for two members of Congress, two members of the Democratic caucus, every single Democrat voted for boys to play against girls in elementary school, junior high, and high school sports. Two Democrats joined the Republicans. So the insanity continues. And we read an article about the well-known liberal prognosticator Matthew Yglesias, and he talked everything that we've talked about is a problem with the Democratic Party. He brought up. Now he's still delusional at points, but he understands. In fact, Democrats understand, but they don't care. This article from the Liberal Patriot, Roy Teixeira, who is a lifelong Democrat. He is the one that created the Liberal Patriot, and he's been talking about for the last couple of years the problem with Democrats.
Right.
In fact, what was it? He I forgot what liberal think tank he had to leave because you had to be in line with exactly the insanity or they let you go. And he ended up with a conservative think tank who said, no, you're welcome here because we want different viewpoints. Your viewpoints can be here.
Right.
Now, Roy didn't write this article. He's the one that runs a Liberal Patriot. Michael Bahrain wrote it, but it's Politics Carries Risks. Early signs indicate the party isn't feeling pressured to change course. Democrats' continued fixation on identity politics carries risks. Early signs indicate the party is not feeling pressure to change course again. And it starts out with, over the past weekend, Ben Wickler, the current chair of the Wisconsin Democratic Party, one of the two leading candidates to be the next chair of the DNC, posted this message to his X account. We unite our coalition by making sure everyone's at the table. As DNC chair, our leadership team will lift up our full coalition with Black, Latino, Native, AANHIPI, LGBTQ, youth, interfaith, ethnic, rural, veteran, and disability representation. Wickler was obviously trying to demonstrate the party's commitment to groups that have historically been core part of the Democrats' coalition, especially minorities. His post also exemplified a way of thinking that has dominated the party over roughly the past decade, the insistence on seeing the electorate as a collection of identity groups formed on the basis of shared, often immutable traits that need to be spoken to and treated as distinct from other groups. It is becoming harder to justify using this framework in the year 2025. We've talked about that many, many times. But viewing American politics and society through this lens also carries serious risks, especially for political parties whose primary concern is winning elections.
Yeah.
Wow. One such risk is coming to believe that the shared characteristic that binds a group of people together is the most important factor in forming that group's voting habits. Yep. That's identity politics. You judge people as groups and not individuals.
Well,
and it brings up again the whole immigrants thing,
right?
And the Hispanics moving towards Trump, they don't get it.
We can talk about the votes yesterday in the House. You had Cuellar and Gonzalez, two Democrats, the only two Democrats in the House that voted with the GOP. Why? Why is that? What changed? Trump winning, and the people of their districts saying, we don't want this. We don't want boys and girls sports. And I forget if it was Cuellar or Gonzalez. I think it was Gonzalez. I basically said, that's the people in my district don't want this. And that is a change, by the way. There was that's kind of been back and forth. Both of those districts in Texas are swing districts. But you're seeing that now, and that is both districts, heavy Latino population. And the left, the Democratic Party, insists on grouping everybody. And then assigning groupthink. You've got to think like the group, or we're going to call you out. Obama calling out before the election black men. And the response was, what are you talking about? Where do you get off on calling us out? But that's who the left has been for a long, long time. This has been their tactic. If you're a certain ethnicity, you have to think our way or something is wrong with you.
And it writes here, last cycle, after a speaker at a Trump rally made a crass joke about Puerto Rico. Remember the garbage joke?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that joke was about the garbage problem. It was relating
the
actual garbage problem that Puerto Rico has.
Right.
Which is well known.
Right.
But made a joke about Puerto Rico in the final week of the campaign, and Democrats thought they had an issue that they could use to galvanize Hispanic voters. They put up billboards around Allentown, Pennsylvania, home to a sizable Puerto Rican population, highlighting the speaker's words. Kamala Harris also hammered home the topic in her final campaign rally in the state, but it made no difference. On Election Day, Trump flipped Pennsylvania. Hispanics in the state moved towards him by 14 points. Allentown and other localities with large Hispanic populations shifted in his direction. The same thinking has been present in other contexts as well. The Biden administration pursued a widely unpopular student loan forgiveness plans in hopes of energizing young voters, despite the fact that student loans were near the bottom of young people's list of priorities. Harris also clearly hoped that campaigning hard on the abortion issue would move women to support her in record numbers. In the same vein, Democrats touted her race and gender in an effort to boost her support. But in the end, she underperformed Biden with young voters, black voters, and women. All of this is a good reminder that conceiving of any group as monolithic terms risks missing meaningful differences within it. Even terms like Latino have limited utility as they lump of very different life experiences of people with ancestry in, say, Mexico, Cuba, and Colombia into one broad category. In Wickler's case, his preferred term, AANHPI, Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander, does the same thing with people from different countries in different parts of the globe and often with very different cultures. This is perplexing, though, as we started to see the importance of understanding the nuances within these populations just last year. Additionally, when parties and candidates are hyper-focused on messaging to certain identity groups, others then expect to receive the same treatment and take notice when they don't get it.
Yeah.
Look, you do it where Republicans are going. You say, here's the issue. It's going to help you no matter what you are.
Exactly.
Or it's going to help you. It's going to help you
Right.
here. It's going to help you here. It's going to help you here.
Right.
One of the reasons here, but obviously, as this is a whole thing of identity politics, the core part of it that he misses, he hits one part. The point is, getting bogged down in identity politics often makes it harder to develop a clear and compelling message with universal appeal. People may know that you stand behind this or that group, but they don't have a good sense of who you are or what you'll do for them. And they talk about what's strange is the Democratic Party, just massive focus on identity over the past decade. And this is funny, goes Barack Obama, because we brought this up, but Barack Obama was lying. Barack Obama, when Obama first came into the scene of the 2004 Democratic National Convention, his vision for the country explicitly rejected identity politics. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was lying.
Of course.
That's the part. That's the thing. He was lying.
Right.
He said there's not a liberal America and a conservative America. There's a United States of America. There's not a black America and white America. and Latino America and Asian America, there's United States of America.
That was so 21 years ago.
He was en route to capture the party's nomination in the 2008 primary race, but he didn't believe it.
No.
But that's not the point. What he fails to mention and never doesn't have it in the well, why can't they drop it? It's not working. Drop it. You see it's working. It's working for Republicans who say, look, this is where we stand on the issue, and it's going to help everybody. If we improve the economy, it helps everybody. Why is that working? And why can't we change? They can't change because of critical race theory. They're living and dying by the fact that, they judge people by groups. Critical race theory, the necessary component of critical race theory is that all whites are culturally racist. They're culturally racist to the point that it's almost like it's genetics.
Right.
That's the whole critical race theory. The whole society has to be set up that whites are all racist.
Right.
So if you're going to reject identity politics, you've got to say, well, we need to treat white people as individuals. Can't do that.
Well, we can bring the full circle of Barack Obama right back when he was talking about it. It's part of your DNA.
Yeah. Right.
You can't change it. That's not what he was saying in 2004. But by the end of his second term, that's part of your DNA. You can't change it.
Obama was lying, just like he was on gay marriage. Everybody knows it. Don't bring up Obama. He was lying about it.
Right.
He suckered everybody in.
He's best buddies with Trump.
Yeah, exactly. I'm expecting him to be out there golfing with Trump.
Yeah.
Or Trump to beat him on the basketball court.
Right.
Okay,
They're buddies.
That's probably blasphemy to Obama supporters that Trump could beat him on the basketball court.
I haven't seen Trump on a basketball court, so there's that.
Well,
but on the golf course.
Well, you never know. You never know. Trump was golfing with DeSantis yesterday.
Yeah.
Or was it the day before?
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting my days mixed up.
You know who's good on the court? He has to be. Barron. He's 6'9".
Well, that's sizist.
I know. That's why I said it.
You're assuming that he must be good at basketball because he's so. I don't know if I can work with you anymore.
Yeah. No, he's tall. It's got to be good. He's closer to the basket.
No,
that's just math.
See, that type of sizist bigotry.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was trying to do.
Sizist.
I nailed it.
Sizist bigotry.
I nailed it.
Well, no. What if Barron only believes he's 5'2"?
He'd be wrong.
Then he's 5'2".
He's delusional.
Stop picking on Barron.
The basket is right there, Barron. Dunk it. You know you can. You don't even have to jump. Just dunk it.
That was interesting, though. I mean, you've got Trump and DeSantis now out there golfing, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, again.
But what the Republican Party learned, and even, I think, Trump, with everything he's gone through, is, and you can see it, he's building a coalition based on the issues, where you stand on the issues.
And that's light
what
years from where he was coming in 2017.
Yeah.
After the 2016 election season. And by the way, exactly where he needs to be. He's building a coalition with people who aren't even members of his own party. I mean, they're not part of the coalition, but you're converting people. He converted voters. And it's going to be interesting to see. We saw it play out in the House yesterday. All but 2 Democrats. We know what their agenda is, but I wonder what it looks like in the Senate. Are there Gallego, Fetterman? Are we looking at them crossing over on some issues? We asked this after the election on generally speaking, but I have to wonder. I'm curious.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. In order to manage speed, you need to understand the 4 factors involved in stopping a vehicle. Perception distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time you see a hazard until your brain recognizes it. The perception time for an alert driver is approximately 3/4 of a second. Reaction distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time your brain tells your foot to move from the accelerator until your foot hits the brake pedal. The average driver has a reaction time of 3/4 of a second. Brake lag distance also needs to be taken into account. When operating a vehicle with air brakes, it takes about half a second for the mechanical operation to take place. Finally, braking distance is the distance it takes a vehicle to stop once the brakes are applied. Braking distance is affected by the weight, length, and speed of the vehicle, as well as road condition. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here. All right. You ready for some fun?
No.
Well, let's hear from AOC. Remember,
She said fun.
She's viewed as one of the leaders now of the Democratic. Now, I think she only got one. What? She got
1%,
3% or 1%, whatever.
I think it was 1.
Yeah. Who won? 49% of people have no idea who the leader of the Democratic Party is.
Nobody knows. See, that's why Lloyd Austin felt fine taking, not telling anybody. Well, who would he tell?
But what is the? Well, it's coming up on the bottom of the hour. I realize
Right.
I don't have the time to play it
Okay.
because
Right.
she'll tell you what the number one reason is why Republicans don't want men playing women's sports.
Okay.
Because it's the number one reason that you got to hear. Now, I will say this: Riley Gaines addressed it, going, these people are nuts.
Mm-hmm.
They're absolutely crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And as we know, only 2 Democrats in the House voted with Republicans to say that, from K through 12, that, sorry, nope, boys don't get to play against girls in sports.
Yeah.
And so now it goes to the Senate, but you only had 2. Who was it again? Quare and who else? Gonzalez?
Gonzalez in Texas. Both of them in Texas.
From Texas.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you've got 2 sane, and then you've got insane Crockett, so my congressperson.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
She's nuts. She's absolutely nuts.
Yeah. Over the top, insane.
Yep.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you so much for being here. Here we are to a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And we're having interesting times as it's the end of the Biden administration and the Trump administration beginning. No idea. Any inkling out there from anybody in the media about if Biden's going to give just a generic pardon?
But wouldn't I haven't seen anything, but wouldn't it be just like Biden to do it like the evening before, the night before?
Has that ever been done before? Where you're not charged or convicted of anything.
Blanket pardons?
Just blanket pardons. And sometimes blanket can mean, okay, you're pardoning a bunch of people, but no, the blanket, there is no charge against you.
Yeah, if it's going to happen, and I suspect at least some pardons will come down, it's going to be just like Biden for it to be, especially if it's, I was going to say, if it's highly controversial. It's always controversial.
Yes.
Pardons are always controversial. That's why you wait till the end.
Yeah.
But with Biden,
yeah, just like
who knows?
Just like Cuba. Let's try to normalize relations now that I'm on my way out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that'll work. That's great.
Yeah.
Set everything on fire.
All right. The insanity yesterday in the House, except for 2 Democrats, every single Democrat voted for the misogyny of the radical transgender movement. The bill that Republicans passed with 2 votes from Democrats would ban boys playing against girls in K through 12. Now, why do Republicans want this? What's the number one reason? According to AOC,
to open up gender and, yes, genital examinations into little girls in this country in the so-called name of attacking trans girls. And to that, today, what we have to say are 2 words: not today. The majority right now says there's no place in this bill that says it opens up for genital examinations. Well, here's the thing. There's no enforcement mechanism in this bill. And when there is no enforcement mechanism, you open the door to every enforcement mechanism. Trans girls are girls.
Well, there's only a little bit to unpack there. That's the good news. And by the way, she sounds fun to have a conversation with, huh? It's, what we've pointed out time and time again, if you want to know, where the liberals are going, if you want to know how they think, just listen to what they're saying and what they accuse the other side of. I'm sorry, AOC, you're the one that came up with that bizarre enforcement mechanism, as you call it. There's nobody talking about it. In fact, all of us who want boys out of the girls' locker room are trying to protect the girls.
The interesting thing is that is the number one argument that they have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It just completely made up.
Yeah, completely made up.
Completely made up. And, let's make it look, and this is the thing. Their side and what they're pushing in their agenda, explicit material in front of 5-year-olds in schools. Yeah. And they're making it look like the GOP, they're the ones pushing something that is perverted in nature.
Right.
Nope, that's your side. Again, if you want to know where they are, just look at the mindset. That's what they came up with.
Yeah, you're not trying to protect girls' sports. You just want to do genital examinations.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
Thank you, AOC.
Right.
Ah, you caught us.
Right.
You caught us on that one.
Yeah.
What a moron.
Yeah. That's what they came up with.
And then when she said trans girls are girls.
Nope.
Liar, liar, pants on fire.
Nope. They're not. They are not.
The funny thing is, and it's not funny. I mean, let me put ironic, should it be, that she's claiming the number one reason that Republicans wish to not have boys play girls sports, because we're talking K through 12, is because they want genital examinations this from the party that wants genital mutilation.
Yeah, right.
And the approval of genital mutilation to come
from the children.
From the children alone.
Right.
Do you think they sat in a room? Because she wasn't the only one that said it. That was their number one argument. You think they sat in a room and said, what can we do? We need to workshop this. You know, it's very tough. We're not going to win it with the American public by saying, no, boys have a right to play against girls. Well, first, we have to lie and say the boys are girls, but that's not good enough. Okay, can we somehow, you know, they've been pretty successful in calling us perverts in the whole genital mutilation thing. How can we strike back? Oh, let's accuse them of wanting genital inspections.
Well, think about this. This is the side who said, you know, that your daughter needs to get used to male genitalia is now accusing the other side of wanting to see genitalia.
You know, I'm laughing.
That's the insanity.
I'm laughing because
that's how it is. There's zero fat in what I said.
Can you believe that our society has de-evolved to this point?
Yeah.
That we're actually having to talk about this.
Yeah.
That's why I'm laughing here. I'm like, I can't believe that as an adult, we're actually having this insane discussion.
Right.
Because of the insanity of the Democrats. And it's insanity. And every Democrat listening right now knows that. Why do you allow that with your party? Why do you allow the misogyny? And why do you allow your party to promote the misogyny and try to twist and turn it into a perversion of Republicans?
It's desperation. They're losing it.
God, they're sick people.
They're losing it.
I mean, they're sick. They are sick and they are perverted.
All along they've been saying, your daughter needs to get used to male genitalia. And now they're accusing the other side of just wanting to see genitalia.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a horrible effort. That was a horrible effort. It's, again, the perverted left that comes up with this stuff. That's their focus. And it has been all along. That's how they think. And you just heard it from her.
Let's get to Riley Gaines yesterday after the bill passed.
And I'm a former collegiate swimmer from the University of Kentucky. First, and let me echo Speaker Johnson's gratitude for the people who stand alongside me, behind me, their leadership on this issue, how they have stood firm, the flack that you all have taken. I know it's not easy, but nonetheless, it's necessary, and I would argue that it's urgent. And so I thank you all. And I'm thrilled with the passage of H.R. 28, the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act. But truthfully, I'm mad. I'm mad that this is something we have to do. I'm mad that we as women have to beg for equal rights. I'm mad that we have to beg for privacy in areas of undressing. And I'm mad that we have to beg for safety on the court or on the field or walking in the streets at night, for that matter. Here's some of the things. Let's just go through a couple of the things we heard on the House floor today from Democrats. We heard of things like genital exams. We heard that girls will be asked to show what's in their underwear. We heard that they have to show internal and external anatomy, inspections, Taliban-like enforcers, hire predators to peek at girls, on and on and on. Weird fear-mongering about predators. But that's what Democrats do best. If you don't know what they're up to, just look at what they're accusing the right of. There have only been a few girls. Another thing they said, there's only a few girls who have been injured at the hands of a boy. It's such a small percentage. I heard that this bill is a waste of time. And let me tell you the message I received when I heard that, is that I'm a waste of time. Girls around the country, just like me, are a waste of time. Your daughters are a waste of time to all House Democrats except the 2 who voted in favor of the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act. But to Speaker Johnson's point, the American people spoke on November 5th. The common sense, everyday Americans who intuitively know that men and women are different. We reject this notion. While I certainly believe people turned out to the polls to embrace Donald Trump, to embrace his cabinet picks, to embrace the America First agenda, more so, truthfully, I believe that people turned out to the polls on November 5th to reject absurdity. And that is entirely and thoroughly what the Democratic Party has become, absurd. Whether it's feeling like you have to refer to Latino individuals as Latinx, believing that men can become women, believing that men can breastfeed, believing that tampons belong in boys' bathrooms, entirely and thoroughly absurd. I'm here today for one reason. Of course, I'm not here to speak on the policy, anything like that. I'm here to debunk every single thing you heard from the House Democrats today. I'm here to tell you that this isn't a hypothetical situation. No, it's reality. My story by now is seemingly well known, so I won't get into it. I could spend hours sharing the feelings and the emotions, the specifics behind watching a man steal a woman's national title.
Riley Gaines yesterday.
Yeah.
She lays it out, and you realize the insanity of the Democrats and the fact that they're not going to change.
Right.
They don't care.
Nope.
They want to promote this insanity, the misogyny, the woman hatred, the self-misogyny.
Yep.
It really is incredible because this gets back to the whole thing that we talked about yesterday, the editorial written on stupidity. When you promote something that the public disagrees with and it does you no good.
Right.
Why do you do it?
Right. Yeah, what's the purpose?
What's the purpose
What
of
are you
doing
trying
it?
to accomplish? Yeah, and
it just you shake your head. You're like, it just.
And Riley points out what we do and what I said a moment ago, and that is, if you want to know what they're about, just look at everything they accuse the other side of.
Yeah.
You know,
she's gotten a lot better since day one. Hasn't
she? Man,
she
really is. Good.
Yeah, I'm not insulting her from day one. I'm just saying she walked into. She didn't have experience in doing this.
Yeah, right.
But she was a victim of it.
Right.
And then came out, but man, she's become really, really good at articulating.
Great voice.
866-90-RED-I.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-I.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. And, hey, we podcast right after the show is over. And if for some reason you can't listen to your favorite radio station, you can hear all 5 hours on our app.
That's right. It's free.
Yep. And coming up following the top of the hour, you won't want to miss it. The Hegseth hearings yesterday. Some great stuff coming out of that, and still the continuation of the politics of the wildfires in Los Angeles. One of the things, one of the debates are having now is whether there needs to be conditions on it.
Yeah.
And the left's like, well, should we have conditions on hurricanes? I mean, should people not be able to build where hurricanes, hit on the beaches? And it's like, well, actually, conservatives have been talking about that for a very long time.
Right.
If you're going to live in an area where your house has to be rebuilt every 5 years or so,
right.
And the insurance company won't insure you for it, is it the government's responsibility or other people's responsibility to help subsidize your insurance?
Exactly.
So, and with where the budget is going, we've seen the debt, the interest on the debt,
right,
record levels now,
right,
always going to be more of a concern.
Mm-hmm.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.